Now, Gatwick has announced it's cutting daily flights during the peak summer season in order to help passengers receive a more reliable service. Tens of thousands of passengers facing major disruption to their travel as staffing shortages have meant many airlines are being forced to cancel flights at the last minute. The chief executive of Heathrow's warned the disruption caused by staffing shortages could last for over 18 months. I'm joined now by Julia Lo Bue-Said at Advantage Travel Partnership, where she's the CEO, which is the UK's largest independent travel agent and travel management company consortium. Julia, welcome along.
Good afternoon.
Has Gatwick made the right decision here in reducing the number of flights?
I think ultimately what Gatwick are really trying to do is ensure that consumers can have a less of a disruptive service throughout July and August, and reduce a cap in the flights is a way to be able to do that so that the airport and the airlines working together can operate a more seamless process.
You say less disruption, but of course this will also have a knock-on effect of disrupting many passengers' summer holiday plans. This is coming at the peak of the summer season.
It's really frustrating for the whole industry. We've been shut down for 2 years in trying to build back. Clearly, there is a real surge in demand, which in one respect is positive, but the industry has challenges which it needs to work through. And what this cap does enables the airlines to be able to operate at a level that they feel they can operate at, given the staff, the challenges they've got in terms of staff shortages.
And yet the chief exec of Heathrow saying that this disruption could last for well over 18 months. So is this really going to have the intended impact?
Look, let's hope so. I think what we all saw in the May half term, which was the first really busy period since restrictions were eased, and they were only eased on the 18th of March. We saw, some of those scenes were really disturbing, and none of us want to be in that position. I think what this really starts to do is really enables the industry to build that resilience as it starts to almost rebuild an industry from scratch. So from our point of view, it's positive. We need to make sure the communication channels are absolutely clear and that consumers understand exactly what flights are disrupted, because the vast majority of them clearly are not disrupted.
Where does this leave people whose flights are set to be cancelled, planning summer holidays, perhaps already booked things related to them? Where does that leave passengers?
Yeah, it's really challenging, and that's back to the communication. We really need to make sure that airlines are very quick at communicating so that people know exactly what's happening to their flights. As I say, in the vast majority of cases, flights won't be cancelled. They will continue, but clearly that's no consolation if you're hearing today's news. So communication needs to be quick, it needs to be clear, and we need to make sure that happens pronto.
What impact is all of this having, Julia, on customers' trust in the airline industry? It's taken a real knock in recent weeks.
Yeah, I think the whole industry is in a really challenging place, and it's very difficult to be able to articulate very briefly how a 2-year shutdown impacts a global infrastructure when you haven't had chance to really rebuild. And without wanting to point any fingers whatsoever, there are lots of moving parts in the whole system. And our focus now in the travel agent community, our focus is all about how do we make sure consumers have the communication they need. Our members are in the absolute best place to help navigate some of those concerns, and that everybody knows what their rights are, but also ultimately customers want to travel, and they want to travel on the flight they've booked, and we need to make sure that we're working towards that and build a much better experience for consumers.
This, of course, has ramifications for the finances you can expect. The peak summer season, an opportunity for your industry to really make its money back after, as you say, 2 years of a very difficult time. Is this going to have a huge financial impact on what you can do this summer?
I think, again, the industry is very complex and quite fragmented. In my area, which is, again, independent travel agent network, these are independent businesses that have had a very tough time. Every time there is a flight change, every time there's a cancellation, their staff are working really hard to make sure consumers can still have that holiday they want. But that comes at a cost, because they're not getting paid for that. So nobody wants to be in this position. Nobody wants to be in a position of having to cancel, disrupt plans. And it really is about working really tightly, really together across the ecosystem and with government to make sure that we're in the best possible position. And I think the cap with the flights today shows, the airports are looking to be as proactive as they can to put these measures in place.
Much of the focus on this coverage has been particularly holidaymakers, Julia, hasn't it? People planning to get away over the summer break. But there are much wider implications for a cap on flights for industry that requires travel.
Absolutely. Half of my membership are made up of business travellers. So they are there looking after corporate clients and businesses that have to travel for not just non-essential reasons, but also essential reasons. So it has a huge impact. Friends and families who are really looking to reunite after being apart for so many years. So it does have a knock-on impact, which is why it's really important the focus is in on making sure we can build resilience in the entire operation.
Can I just ask your thoughts on the timeline proposed by the chief executive of Heathrow, that this will continue causing disruption for over 18 months?
Again, he's made the comment based on the airport. I can't comment on the airport. So I guess looking at the scale of the shutdown that we've had to go through and the reality of building back a whole ecosystem, global ecosystem, it's going to take some time. We've had to start rebuilding in a busy period. So we've not had that opportunity to really try to make sure that the whole infrastructure is in the right place. But the vast majority, it's also very easy to lose sight, but in the vast majority of cases, we are sending millions of people overseas every day for business or pleasure, and they are travelling seamlessly without any disruption whatsoever.
How confident are you that this cap on flights will be the kick, the refresh, the reboot the industry needs to get back on track?
It's one airport, and it's not every airport that's affected. It's not every airline that's affected. A lot of airlines actually manage their whole end-to-end process, so they don't have some of the same constraints as other airlines. I think everything that can be done to build resilience is positive and would be welcomed. And we've just got to keep making sure that the key aspect here is making sure the communication with consumers who are desperate to travel. And it's very, obviously it's a very stressful time if you're told your flights may be cancelled and you don't know if they are. So communication is absolutely paramount, and that's something that I know across industry, everybody's working really closely on.
But ultimately, as far as you're concerned, Julia, this is a step in the right direction.
I think it's a step in the right direction to build resilience, to make sure that the vast majority of customers can depart. If it takes a bit of pressure off the operation as the industry starts to recover, then I can't see how that's a negative. Where it is a negative is if we are not communicating with consumers in the right way, in a timely manner, and that's really important.
Okay, Julia, good to speak to you. Julia Lo Bue-Said, CEO at Advantage Travel Partnership, speaking to us this lunchtime on Times Radio.